I want us to look at our relationship with technology in Nigeria. The numbers of failure are high. 75% of the startups will no longer exist within the first 5 years.
An organization that has done so well, that has really caught my attention, is OP.
I agree.
The average Nigerian will consume films for probably 80% of his day. And that also shows the lack of productivity. People are not employed. So if people are not employed and they are watching bootleg movies, it means that the Netflix and Amazon, from their strategy, have done the right thing to come to this market. But the people that they're trying to serve don't even have the funds to pay for the subscription.
When it comes to subscription, Africans have shown not to like it.
Yeah.
Right. So is this a case of a buying power, or is really a case of bad marketing? Hey guys, welcome to another edition of our podcast, the Ferdy Adimefe Podcast now. And today I have a friend and a young man who I've had the privilege to listen to as well. Charles Ilo, it's the CPO at PLS. But more importantly, I really think as a community, we need the builders and dreamers and doers who center us, who have a sense of grounding in what it means to create a product and to solve fundamental issues here in Africa. How do we adapt and adopt technology, not just as copy and paste, but we make it intuitive, indigenous, and authentic to who we are as a people? How do we use technology to advance human civilization? Africa as a continent, we need new kinds of leadership, strong leadership, you would say, that can help us. So we will have an amazing time listening to Charles today. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, comment, leave a comment. We'd like to see that. We're also planning to build a community of dreamers in Africa. We'll talk about that as well at some point. Stick around. Charles, welcome. I think I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
And I think I want you to give us a little bit of a backstory.
Okay.
Did you always know you were going to end up in technology?
Yes, I knew that. I mean, when I could tell right from wrong, I knew that I had a creative mind. I like to build. I tried my hands in sketching illustrations. And while I was good at it, I didn't think that I was fulfilled enough with the ideas that were coming to my mind. And I felt that this was really coinciding with the rise of personal computing.
Yeah.
I'm not that old, but this was really where a lot of people could afford desktop computers in their houses. And I saw the things that the people like Bill Gates were doing with Windows DOS at the time, the games that people were building to support those systems. And I felt like if they could do it, and if there was a platform that I could express my own creativity and build stuff, then I would like to learn how to do that. And that's how, the rest is history. I studied computer engineering, information systems, and here we are.
Okay, so I know you started by running your own company before moving to KPMG.
Yeah.
Right. What has that experience been, being part of a small startup where you're calling the shots, you're working with a team, but now you're sitting in a big four, one of the big four, having to work through an entire structure? What that transition, did you feel you lost something or gained something? What did you feel you lost and what did you gain?
I would say I didn't lose anything. So there's a notion that nothing is created or destroyed, everything is transformed. So when
That's energy.
Yes, but I think it applies in every facet of life. When I joined KPMG, obviously it was moving from a place where I called the shots to a place where, like you said, operates with structure, with process, with systems. But I had an open mind, and I think that's the perspective that changes everything. I had an open mind because I had a limited worldview at the time. I was very young, just off university, and KPMG is this global brand that I felt had the potential to expose me to industries that I wouldn't have encountered on my own small shop. So the transition for me was not that dire because the open mind to learn was what was what led me, right? And even in terms of the people that I worked with, I think there's something about going above and beyond, understanding the goal. And once the people that you're reporting to trust you enough to allow you run and build and deliver on your own terms, then that is a very powerful thing for you who, likes to create these things without too much micromanagement. So I think my experience at KPMG through my 10 years was a very peculiar and a very fortunate one, in the sense that the people I worked with believed in me so much, trusted in me so much, that they just gave me an objective and let me run with it, right? And obviously I reciprocated by delivering value to them, to the organization, and to the clients that we worked for. And I think it's also interesting to note that even at KPMG, a lot of people see it as an accounting firm, but most of the work that I did through my stay there were more technology oriented. Mm-hmm. So it was an opportunity to take my background knowledge in engineering, technology, and what I had been doing with my startup and apply it in a more impactful and more, in my opinion, valuable way.
What has KPMG taught you about building technology?
Well, I would say what has the experiences at KPMG taught me. So it's taught me that technology is maybe one of the easiest ways to make impact at scale, because technology imbues our lives across the globe in so many ways. Everything that we are doing, the podcast or this conversation we're having, is facilitated by technology. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for someone that wants to make impact and make impact in such a pronounced way, technology is the way. So the experiences at KPMG, right from building a channel system for a bank, internet and web, building systems that support corporate operations, supports individual needs in terms of how they relate with the bank, and also building enterprise systems, has taught me that your mind is your limit, your imagination is your limit, because technology is really as fluid as how you think and how you use it, right, in making that impact. So I'll just say in summary that the experience at KPMG really made me aware of the possibilities and, more importantly, of the need for technology in a lot of industries and a lot of sectors in our economy today.
Interesting. So I want us to look at our relationship with technology in Nigeria.
Yeah.
A lot of startups today are people who are waking up to solve an innovative issue.
Yeah.
They want to build products, but the numbers of failure are high. I think on record, they will say 75% of the startups will no longer exist within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
But why do you think those products fail? Is there something about our startup culture that is making sustainability foreign to us?
Well, Nigeria is a peculiar market. It's not a market that operates by the global norms. So that's the first thing. We need to understand that our market is different. So that means that when we try to solve problems in a way a conventional company would solve it in the West, we are, doomed to fail, right? Because it's a different need. And one of the ways I characterize this is when you look at the New York Stock Exchange, the top 10 most valuable companies there are technology companies.
Yeah, sure.
When you come to the Nigerian...
And that has changed over the last... then we used to have automobile or banks.
Yeah.
Now mostly tech.
Now they're mostly tech. So it shows you where value is at and what people are taking as the silver bullet for their needs is technology. But when you come back to this market, the top 10 most valuable, half of it is Dangote, providing essential needs, cement, sugar, flour, you understand? And, in recent times, petrol. Basic consumables. So it tells you that in this market, technology is not necessarily seen as a necessity, all right? Basic survival and consumables are seen as that. So that gives you an impression of where the market in terms of market needs in terms of demand lies. So coming back to the things that startups are doing within this sector and why a lot of them fail. Like I said, it's premised on the kind of problems they want to solve and, more importantly, the reliability of their technology. An organization that has done so well, that has really caught my attention is OPay.
I agree.
OPay is not doing anything new. OPay is not doing anything that any other person had not done before. But what has transformed and capitalized them to such an influence that they have in this market is just working, just being reliable. Technology is nothing if it does not work. A lot of the startups that have tried in that space, and a lot of the organizations that have tried to do what OPay is doing, obviously have the right ideas, but the execution is really where it falls flat. And because Nigeria is such a very brutal market, people don't have a lot of disposable income. So you can't afford not to make hit where it matters for them. All right. So a company like OPay has come in and has seen that Nigeria, most of the population in Nigeria doesn't really have disposable income. So the charges that a typical bank will take from them, they've waived it off. All right. The transactions that everybody wants to do, maybe go to take a boat somewhere and pay, or go to the market and you want to use your card. All those things have been facilitated by a platform that just works. So when you transfer money through that platform to, maybe I want to do a transaction with you and I transfer it to you, you get that notification instantly. These are things that failed prior to OPay taking over the market. So I'll just put my synopsis of why startups fail in Nigeria in two folds. One, they don't really understand the market enough. They are just copying and pasting what works in the West into Nigeria without really adapting it for the peculiarities. And two, the technology maybe does not work, does not deliver on the promise. So that those are the two things that I think are responsible
for the video.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's something about market and culture.
Yeah.
But I look at Netflix and the case study of Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
5 years ago, they bulldozed their way into the Nigerian market. They were optimistic. 250 million people. That's a mad number. They were projecting that within a space of maybe 5 years, they will hit at least 1% of the market, which will be 2.5 million subscribers. But 5 years in, they were disillusioned. Amazon couldn't scratch up to 50K to 100K.
Yeah.
Netflix, who came in first with a first mover advantage, couldn't cross 250K.
Yeah.
They start to wonder, why would a country with 250 million people not even, when it comes to subscription, Africans have shown not to like it.
Yeah.
Right. So is this a case of a buying power, or is really a case of bad marketing?
I think it's fundamentally a case of buying power, which is really about the endemic poverty in this system. Right. When you go to the markets where all these things work, it's because people have disposable income. That's number one. People are also well educated. So education is very important, not just going to school, but allowing the school go through you. All right. So I think all those things are foundational things that we need to solve systematically to have a chance of success. Nigerians, the market is there in terms of the demand for content. The average Nigerian will consume, films for probably 80% of his day. And that also shows the lack of productivity. People are not employed, right? So if people are not employed and they are watching bootleg movies, it means that a Netflix and Amazon, from their strategy, have done the right thing to come to this market. But the people that they are trying to serve don't even have the funds to pay for the subscription, right? So they'll rather bootleg or share password, thereby making it a very unviable business for the people that have made so much investments. So I think, yes, poor education and systemic poverty is really responsible for the exits of at least Netflix from the market.
So in that case, what's the approach? Because you talk about education being a gap. And most companies are now having to figure out how to break into what we call the big black hole. So what we talk about the big black hole is that a lot of the startups will do projections to investors. In 5 years, we'll get 10,000, we'll get 1 million subscribers on our platform, 1 million users. But for most of them that have succeeded, you find out that it's maybe one or two clients that is giving them that base. Maybe they're just plugging an API to Android. But again, I like what MoneyPoint did at some point. I don't know how they cracked it, just be on every. So we've looked at waves of technology evolution.
Yeah.
When the first guys who came in, Paystack and Flutterwave guys came in with the API and the payment. And then people now start to feel like right now in the fintech space, there is a saturation, right? And there is not enough differentiation.
Yeah.
But you guys are in the market with something new.
Yeah.
How are you differentiating yourself?
So we are solving a very difficult problem. So the examples that you've given, Paystack, Flutterwave, and MoneyPoint, these guys are solving for payments, right? And it's a saturated market whose pioneer was InterSwitch, right? But the gap we see in the market is really enterprise technology. And there's a reason why there's not a lot of players there. The problems are complex. The problems are difficult. And for investors, it's a long-term play, all right? Because enterprise tech is more business to business than business to consumer, right? Payment is business to consumer, right? The volumes are there, and there's obviously
the micro charges.
Yeah, charges, right? So that's why a lot of people are going there, because it's quick money. But if we look at what has transformed the West into the bastion of economy and technology that they are, it's really about the long-term plays and the infrastructure upon which a lot of the things happen now in the West was built over decades. All right. Microsoft, as an example, unseated IBM in the early 80s. You get. And now Microsoft, through maybe 3 decades, has now consolidated themselves as real players in the enterprise market. So much so that a lot of the big companies in Nigeria use their products. In fact, I don't think that there's any company in Nigeria or Africa that doesn't use a Microsoft product. And that's why Microsoft now dictates the price. But because of the economic situation in Africa and the volatile exchange rates, a lot of businesses are being priced out because the exchange rate between the dollar and the naira has quadrupled overnight.
Yes.
So there's now an opportunity for businesses to look locally for similar solutions.
Alternatives.
Yeah, that not just meet the needs in the way Microsoft does it, but adopt the local context of this market. And that's what we're trying to do at Peerless. We started by solving one of what I'll call the most foundational problem in banking, which is core banking, the core banking infrastructure. Over the last decade, the costs have spiraled. A lot of the providers, or even all the providers, are foreign, right? And with the economic situation, we felt like we could do something better, and we could do something that is more flexible for the different banks and the way they want to serve their customers. And we've done that through CBAs. So we're now attacking the Islamic finance sector, right? There's a lot of Islamic finance, Islamic banks in Nigeria, Jaiz, Unity, Lotus, right? And because of the foundation we've built with CBAs, we are now building an Islamic product called CBAS Mizan, which is a core banking for Islamic finance, all right? And we don't just want to limit ourselves to finance. We think that enterprise tech transcends finance. There are so many sectors that we could penetrate. And we looked for the low-hanging fruits, what we call the low-hanging fruits. What are some of the challenges that we see across industries that has not been solved, foundationally? And one of it is CRM, right? We are building a customer relationship management system. This is industry agnostic. We're also building a business process management system, also industry agnostic. So these are some of the ways or the things that we think are going to add value to the economy, and more importantly, stimulate people like us to come up with their own solutions, because the same way InterSwitch sparked an arms race, I would call it, in the payment space, is the same way we want to spark a similar race in the enterprise tech. Yeah.
Okay, I actually love that, because I really see that your competitors are not necessarily even local companies where they look like people who are having to feel the pressure of the dollar.
Yeah.
Right, because I remember at some point, even our hosting, we're spending a lot of money with the US companies, and then all these other smaller companies, I don't want to call their names, but came in and we're offering better rates, and a lot of startups started to fall for it.
Yeah.
But in a sense, I do think that with respect to our ability to indigenize technology, that there is enough capacity or capital for that, right? In patient enough capital to be able to sustain the runway. Because it's with the enterprise, it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
It's a drill. It's a hardcore. You have to grind it years and years, keep priming your numbers. But do you think there is enough patient capital and even understanding in the market to really allow local indigenous enterprise solution companies to thrive?
Well, I think it's a general problem in this part of the world. Our capital is not patient, but that's why we are seeking people that can take bold bets. Is a bet, right? And it's about finding the alignment in the value, right? I feel like the capital that any organization seeks should be capital that is not just transactional. It's capital that is aligned on value and where you see that value. So I believe that there are certain people, certain investors that will bet on us and give us the runway or give us the time to really make a mark. All right. It might not be as much as we want, but I think a river is made of it's really from a drop of water, right? So once we get people that make that bet and we make a mark, a lot of investors seeing that value, seeing that impact would jump on board.
You spoke about having this Islamic banking product.
Yeah.
And I know that it's about the rates.
Yeah.
I do know that Islamic banking tend to do maybe no interest.
Yeah, it's non-interest banking. So the difference between Islamic and conventional banking is really around interest. So I'll call Islamic banking or Islamic finance a quasi-socialist type system, right? Where it's more about the ethics of your transaction than profit. So the fundamental difference, as you said, is the interest. But more importantly, or in addition to that, there's also a code of conduct in terms of the type of transactions that an Islamic bank should engage in. So, for instance, you cannot facilitate gambling, you cannot facilitate anything, betting, gambling, alcohol. So there are certain types of transactions that our Sharia compliance layer would prevent any bank using our product from engaging in.
That's interesting. So let's even talk about, in terms of just even looking at our country, are there policies you think from a political perspective that we can actually adopt to be able to open up Nigeria more in a very transformative way with technology?
Well, if it's about policies, to be honest, I think Nigeria has all the policies. What we struggle with is the implementation, the consistent implementation of the policies to the letter, right? And the other thing we struggle with is government coming out, is lack of continuity, let me put it that way. So a policy is introduced today and in addition to not executing it to the letter, someone comes in and changes it. All right. So that lack of continuity is bad for business. So I don't think that our problem is really policies. It's really about consistent application to the letter and continuity.
So in that sense, there are also cases where we are finding a reactionary approach to the way policies get introduced. For instance, at some point, the blockchain and the crypto space was a very, very burgeoning space in Africa.
Yeah.
Nigeria was the second largest crypto consuming market, buying all kinds of coin and trading. And then the CBN at the time felt threatened by this and went against the guys, lost of jobs. And now we're finding that even in NCC, there is a lot of policies that would come out to regulate. There's SEC now regulating who gets listed, with whether it's actually licensed around remittance. There is a lot of policies, but sometimes these policies are retroactive, and sometimes they're almost draconian. It's about kill the startup first. Everybody, let's be sane. Then let's now come and through that process. So there is also a sense that for forward-thinking sectors, our policies are not always up to date. True. Most times they come in a little late in the day, but they come in with hammer and thinking every problem is a fly.
So I think to answer that question, it's not just the Nigerian thing, but it's the effect and the draconianity of it is really more Nigerian. But I think regulation at the end of the day is to protect the consumers. So a regulator does not think about the person providing that service, is to protect the consumers. So
not about creating an enabling environment for all players to thrive?
Well, at least for the SECs of this world, the CBNs of this world, is really to protect the end user, right? It's the government, through the policies that they introduce in their fiscal framework that creates that enabling environment for innovators to have a field day. But in terms of regulators of sectors like SEC for Securities and Exchange, CBN for the banking, NICOM for insurance, their job is primarily to protect the consumers of those services. So you'd see that a lot of times, yes, the regulation can be draconian. And I think the simple reason behind that is that the regulators maybe do not understand the technology well enough, which can be solved. There was really I think the way it's been solved in other climes, like in Singapore, is that there's a sandbox, regulatory sandbox, where new innovations or people that have new ideas go there and test out their ideas, with the regulator, so that the regulators can have a full appreciation of what they're trying to solve, and in that way create policies that do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But again, when we come back to Nigeria, you talk about blockchain and crypto. One of the highest sources of fraud is from that sector, right? People hide under crypto, new coins to scam people. So you'd understand why the regulator will act in that very draconian manner. But I think the balancing act is for maybe an introduction of a similar sandbox where people that are playing in emerging technology spaces can demonstrate their innovation to the regulator and co-create the policies or the regulations with the regulator. I think that would be a more sustainable way of addressing the issue with policies.
What's your place you're thinking around AI in the world today? So people are complaining that AI is coming for jobs. Right now, AI is doing real estate agents. There was even this simulation where AI there was an AI teaching environment where the kids learned for 3 hours, but they were doing even far better than the humans. We're talking about how AI is even becoming super intelligent in such a way that it could even not just become sentient, but could also possibly even attain a level of consciousness. So it gets really scary. But what's your own perspective generally around the AI and industries?
Well, I would say that AI becoming sentient is still a very long way ahead. They talk about artificial general intelligence, which is that place where AI becomes conscious. Yes, AI has grown in leaps and bounds, but I can tell you that AI did not just start 5 years ago. It's a sector that has started even way before I was born, all right? We're just seeing the impact of those years of research, which is why I said infrastructure and enterprise tech transcends decades. But coming back to the fear that a lot of people have about AI, I think some of those fears are founded if you're doing a very, what's the word to use? A very routine job. Let me put it that way. But AI, as much as we think it thinks for itself, is just a very intelligent way of ruminating or passing through things that it has memorized. So it's like when you're reading for an exam, you cram, right? And you go to the exam hall and you see a question. You ruminate through all the things you've crammed and find the most related answer you think to that question. It's not that you necessarily understand it, right? And that's the level of consciousness that distinguishes like a fully developed human being from an AI agent. The thing is that the AI agents do this at a very astonishingly quick way that gives the impression that is creating these things afresh, right? So I think for creatives like you and I, people that understand the art of building, AI is just going to be a complement to our crafts. It's not going to replace our craft. So that's what I believe. I don't think that people should be scared of AI. Rather, people should find a way to use AI to improve their understanding of what they are trying to do and a way to even accelerate it. So for instance, in the technology space, there's a rise of what they call vibe coding, where, for instance, you want to build an app, you tell AI to build it for you, and you see something that is a semblance of an app, right? But if you don't have fundamental understanding of engineering, right, you would be hamstrung because that thing that AI has done for you will not be scalable. There are certain ways you want it to work that you struggle to communicate to AI, right? And it would have made sense if you understood what AI has done, right? And you're able to then craft your prompts in such a very specific way that it knows what exactly to change in the code. And that's how I see AI augmenting rather than replacing fully blown creatives.
So last year, everybody was talking about prompt engineering.
Yeah.
And it was like, what would I study? Everybody's saying go for prompt engineering. But this year, the versions of AI that are coming out are almost promptable.
Okay.
They self-prompt. So in a sense that even you're aided in your prompting. What should the future look like? I mean, what for the younger people listening to us now, and we have quite a number of them who are looking to make a decision about careers.
Yeah.
They're thinking, AI is coding, why do I need to learn coding? AI is animating, is illustrating, is doing videos, why do I need to learn videography? What are the careers of the future that will not be touched?
I don't think that there's any career that will not be impacted in a way or the other. So I would rather say it this way, that anybody that wants to pursue a career should look for careers that make impact. I mean, impact can never be substituted, right? So if you want to be a medical doctor, as an example, obviously there are ways of enhancing and accelerating the procedures, the diagnostics. Maybe AI can help with that. But you must understand fundamentally the anatomy of a human body, all right? So that deep understanding cannot be substituted by any inanimate object. It's with that understanding that you can use the tools that AI provides to augment and accelerate the impact and the value that you make in that example. So for people that want to learn engineering, I dare say that the AGI goal is still a long way from now. You must understand the engineering fundamentals. AI would just help you code faster. So rather than spending days coding a feature, you can code it in hours because there's very specific instructions that you're asking the AI agent to do for you. And you're also able to review with a level of clarity what is done. Because even in conversation mode, you know that there are certain things you ask AI to do and it does not do it exactly how you want. It's the understanding that you have that allows you to correct AI, to prompt it to give you the output that's in the way you want it. And that's the same for every profession, whether it's animation, whether it's engineering or whatnot. You must have that deep understanding first, and it means that you must study to have that deep understanding so that AI can augment and complement.
Just if you're not a programmer, what would you be doing?
Let me see. That's an interesting question. I've not thought about it. I think I would have been playing football.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really used to like football when I was growing up, and I was very good at it. But my parents thought that education was the way forward.
Yes. And they say, come back home and lock yourself up.
Do you understand? Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I want us to zoom into the continent Africa because I think people your kind of profile.
Yeah.
I mean, once my wife showed me a picture of some of her friends in Canada. And from your school, see you.
Yeah.
It was overwhelmingly, a lot of them had moved to Canada.
Yeah.
Why are you still in Nigeria?
I mean, if I had a penny for every time I was asked that question, I would have been Dangote. Interesting question. I think for me, it's about the passion I have for the country, but more importantly, the exposure I had to foreign cultures, early in my career. So a lot of people that are moving, I would say 80% of them are people who have not gone abroad before. So all they know about these climbs are what they see on TV, what is being promised by what they hear on social media and whatnot. But I did my postgraduate degree in England, spent close to 2 years there. I also had a stint in Singapore where I was on secondment from KPMG, spent close to like 8 months there. And in all these experiences, it was very clear to me that there's no place like home. All right. I felt like the impact that I could make would be greater felt in an environment with so much challenges. You go to the West and you're yet another person, another cog in the wheel, because everything is going for them, right? And for me, I also felt like there was this cultural aspect of the whole emigration that I couldn't deal with. For instance, I love good food. I love African food.
Yeah, the second person telling me this, I can't move. I love Nigerian food.
I'm telling you. And I think a lot of people that are thinking about that journey who have not experienced what it feels like to live abroad might take some of these things for granted, like the food, like the fact that you come out and there's a lot of warm, friendly people around you that actually know that you exist. When you go there, you don't see it and you start to miss it. There's a reason why, if you look at maybe the top 3 things that Nigerians in diaspora do, one of it would be consuming Nigerian content, like Nollywood films. And I can bet you that a number of those people consuming this content in diaspora would not have done that if they were in Nigeria. All right. So I think, in summary, the reason I don't consider emigration an option is that there's a lot of value to be created here at home, and created in a way that is impactful, created in a way that does not ostracize you, you're right. And more importantly, that also gives fulfillment when you see that impact in the society. So I think that's the reason.
Okay, so Africa is one of the richest regions in the world. We talk about, when it comes to natural resources, people.
Yeah.
Now it's responsible, at least the youngest continent in the world, with about 60 to 70% under the age of 25. So it's an incredible young continent.
Yeah.
But somehow, when you talk about natural resources, we come on top. When we talk about global GDP, all African countries fall to the bottom.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, that's in somewhere in the middle. Why do you think the continent has lingered so long in really coming to its full potential? We talk about the giants of Africa, sleeping giants, and all of those things. When are we going to wake up?
This is an age-old question. And I think I would say it's the cost of the resources. You see a country like Singapore. Singapore does not have a single natural resource. Singapore has transformed from being, one of the poorest regions in the world to one of the wealthiest in our lifetime. And the key to that transformation is just the vision of the person in charge.
Yeah, Lee Kuan Yew. Yeah.
Good governance. So the state of Africa is a reflection of the governance of Africa. And we don't even need to look that wide for you to understand the impact of good governance. Even within, an organization, the probability of an organization winning in terms of achieving its business goals or losing is in terms of the quality of the leadership of the organization. So I think a lot of the reasons why Africa has not attained this potential is on the leadership of the country of the continent over the years. And I think once we address that in a very sustainable, consistent manner, we will reap our potential in no time. And I say consistent very intentionally because, like I said, because of the system of democracy we operate in Africa, at least most countries in Africa, there's a term limit, 8 years at least for Nigeria. And if someone who does not believe in your policies and your vision succeeds you, there's a high probability that they truncate.
For another 8 years.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
That's another longer. So you see that the lack of continuity in execution and vision implementation is one of the reasons why a lot of countries in Africa don't attain their full potential. But I believe strongly that the new generation of leaders, right, are going to change that. Leadership is everything that we need in Africa.
Okay, that's amazing. But again, looking at how Africans have never really looked inwards. So, for instance, I recently stumbled on how Harvard University picked up the apprenticeship system in the Igbo culture.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, this thing is working. Where literally they could look at apprenticeship and discover that an entire tribe of people have come into wealth. I mean, we look at it with the Cubana guys.
Yeah.
First Obi, and then he brings all these chief priests and everybody in. They now have their own bars or lounges or clubs, and then they all bring drinks and they share. So it's very communal, right? And if you look at the Agile model, where a group of women in the market will put money together, this person's taking it. It was almost like crowdsourcing capital for your rent and everything. Now, when it comes to technology, you had mentioned it at some point that we just copy paste from Silicon Valley and put it here.
Yeah.
We don't know that we're not necessarily solving Africans' problems. So we talk about a lot of innovators that are still sketching the surface of the issues.
Yeah.
We have issues around agriculture distribution. 60% of what we generate gets wasted.
Yeah.
Can technology help us to reduce the waste of the agricultural produce? We talk about electricity is still pretty much, even with solar, I know that a few companies are now trying to structure distribution payment model, but it appears that even from governance perspective, we still run colonial models when it comes to access to finance and funding. People actually even say that a lot of what Africans run today as a financial structure is pretty much a copy and paste from Bretton Woods institutes. Yeah. So it's European in model. So you come to Africa, a bank will tell you, oh, we have this fund, but how many people have accessed this? 5%. Yeah. The government created the creative funds in BOI and CBN. How many people have accessed it? Less than 2%. Yeah. So we have all these criteria for assessing these funds that doesn't just even fit with the cultural model. Yeah. Have you really, I don't know if you've thought about it, but have you seen a way that we can deepen our alignment with respect to cultural innovation or even native innovation, or how our innovation can reflect us from a apprenticeship model to Agile? Africans have shown that we have models that can work. Yeah. But these things are not really at the forefront of our studies in university. Nobody's studying apprenticeship system. We're still studying, really studying all the models from other cultures. Yeah. How do we decolonize this curriculum and unlearn these foreign ways to really start to deepen in our own reality?
And I think you said it, and I think I echoed it at some point, the education, right? Because a child, how do ideas form, right? It forms by the environment that you're exposed to and the things that you keep hearing. In Nigeria and in Africa, a child is born and the child goes to a school. The curriculum of this school is modeled after the West. All right. So you spend an average of about 18 years in school, which is the entire formative period of your life. And you just learn Western concepts. And that is what is ingrained in you. So when you graduate, right, it's difficult for you to think about innovative ways to solve the problems that are endemic to Africa. So I think the most systematic and scalable solution is relooking at curriculum and, seeing how we can infuse some of the cultural adaptations of the curriculum from the West, into our young ones, such that when they graduate, they are able to see the world in a very different light, because the way you see the world is a function of your thoughts. And if your thoughts have been shaped over 18 years, following the Western model, it is very difficult for you to think of another system of life. So I think addressing it at the root through education would be one of the ways. But I think we must also draw lessons from what has worked and what has transformed the West, because I feel like history also always repeats itself, right? There are different economic systems, from the capitalist to the socialist to the communist, right? Those are the three main economic systems. And we have evidences of what works, what has the potential to transform lives at scale. And it's really the capitalist system, right? So as we try to reimagine what our curriculum would be based on our culture, we must also take lessons from the economic systems that work. For instance, I've not participated in Agile, so I don't know what that means. But I would imagine if it's a system of...
So it's what the Igbos call isusu. I don't know if I'm right. Isusu. Yeah. I think it's, it's one of the words, but it's the same model.
Okay. Yeah. But if it's a model that is, I would say, communal in nature, that does not enable the recipients of these funds to invest in productive endeavors, then it's not scalable. Because as an economy, as a country, we need to be productive. the success or failure of an economy is hinged on the productive capacity of its people. We have one of the youngest population, like you mentioned, in the world, which means that our potential for productivity is very high. But if we are not tapping into that, and what is productivity? It's really solving problems, right? So if we have, for instance, an infrastructure deficit, our roads are not good, why do we have to wait for Julius Berger to bring the equipment, the caterpillars, whatever, the innovation to fix those roads? We can create that productive economy by ourselves if we know how to build this equipment, if we know the science to dealing with infrastructural repairs. You would see that very quickly we will be able to transfer the lack of productivity that currently bedevils us into productive enterprises. Someone will have like a caterpillar construction plant. Someone will have a plant that processes asphalt. All these things will be within our economy, and before you know it, we're one of the most richest countries in the world.
You have political plans in future? Enugu might just have a governor in waiting.
Oh my days, I haven't thought that far.
No, but okay, let's go on the softer note. So a lot of the ladies that will be watching this will be wondering why Charles is still single. Charles, what are you looking out for? Just give an idea of an ideal. What's it? Okay, this is the woman of my preference. If you could say that.
Oh my days. You caught me off guard.
Because it's been technical all day.
Yeah. I mean, I just need someone that I can respect, that's all. Right? That's someone that...
So what would respect look like for you? More intelligent, more productive, bringing something to the table. Is there a table?
Well, there's no table. I'm a traditional man, but I like intelligent people, let me put it that way. So I would like someone that I can have conversations with, and someone that whose opinion I can take seriously.
So intellectual intimacy. You must be sapio.
Maybe.
So let's talk about your 17-year-old self as we bring this to a close. If you had to go back in time, the boy that you were, is he proud of the man that you are now?
Of course.
So what would you say to him if you had to go back in time?
I would have said to him to explore his ideas as they come to his mind.
If a book has shaped you, what book would that be?
Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
Ayn Rand.
What's it about?
I want you to find out.
Okay, I think I'll go catch it. Let's talk about the movies then.
All right.
What movie? Give me your top 2 favorite films of all times.
Interestingly, I'm not a movie person.
Interesting.
Yeah, I watch more of documentaries.
So which documentary?
I can't remember the name. It's something about the character in it was Chef Jiro. Can't quite remember the name, but
it's on Netflix.
It's not on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a very marvelous piece of work.
Okay, interesting. If your life were a music, what soundtrack?
That's an interesting question. Let me pose that to you.
Nobody has done that to me. I think over the years, my music has shifted.
Okay.
Right, but I think for a while, I would say a song that captured I used to like Lighthouse and Family.
Okay.
So for me, from Lifted to Ocean Drive, there was a mixture of adventure, identity, and unraveling and discovery. So I'm a poet, so there's a way that I try to listen. I love songs that give me sometimes nostalgia. Yeah, so it's for every season, different season. I have different. Which am I listening to now? I think this guy. I think Harry's song has been on my playlist for a bit. Then I do a lot of gospel.
Okay.
I do gospel. I think for gospel, I have this guy called John Pantana.
Okay.
Not a very popular guy, but John Pantana speaks so very... His poetry of God's love, it's just radical. So what is spirituality to you?
I think spirituality is the core, or should be the core of existence, because it always keeps you grounded. It always keeps you aware of the fact that there's a greater existence, right? There must be a reason why you're here. So I take spirituality very seriously, and I think I like the word you use, spirituality, because a lot of people confuse spirituality with religion. And I think spirituality is a personal journey, and I'm very much invested in that journey as a person.
What have you learned about religion that has helped your spirituality even more enhanced?
I would say that for me, I realized that religion does not necessarily mean, it does not translate to morality. Realizing that really lifted the burden, right? To say you can be yourself to the extent that you're true to what you believe and you're true to how you understand the word of God. I think in this part of the world, a lot of people allow their pastors or their theologians do a lot of interpretation of the word of God for them. But when you start reading the word of God with understanding, right, it opens up a new wave of possibilities and it redefines how you interact with God on that note.
Charles, thank you so much for coming. And I think for you, I'm hoping that somewhere along the line we'll have a part 2 of this conversation.
Yeah.
And hopefully a different Charles and different reality.
Yeah.
But great job on what you guys are doing at Peerless. But more importantly, just seeing the fact that with respect to how you think about life, your answers are always succinct, just punchy. And there's a lot of intelligence and a lot of awareness in what you do.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Thanks a lot.